Fisher girl saved a guy's life on the beach. Unaware he's a millionaire and fell in love with her. The wind howled fiercely, whipping grains of sand across the desolate shoreline. Waves crashed against the jagged rocks, their thunderous roar drowning out the distant cries of seagulls. The sky above was an ominous palette of gray and black, threatening to release a torrent of rain at any moment. Sophia sat on a weathered wooden crate near her small boat, her hands skillfully weaving together the torn edges of a fishing net. She hummed a soft tune to herself, the melody barely audible over the cacophony of the stormy sea. Just as she tied the final knot, a sound pierced through the chaos, a faint, desperate cry for help. Sophia froze, her heart skipping a beat. She strained her ears, unsure if the voice was real or a trick of the wind. The cry came again, this time more urgent. Her eyes darted toward the horizon, where the waves seemed to writhe and churn with a feral intensity. Through the misty spray, she spotted a figure flailing in the water, arms barely visible above the surface. Without a second thought, Sophia leapt to her feet, kicking off her sandals and shedding her shawl. The icy wind bit at her skin as she sprinted toward the shoreline. The tide surged, cold and unyielding. As she waded in, the water quickly rising to her waist. Each step was a battle against the relentless pull of the waves, but Sophia pressed on, her focus unwavering. "Hold on," she shouted, though her voice was swallowed by the roaring sea. She dove into the turbulent water, the cold shocking her system and stealing her breath. Powerful strokes propelled her forward, her arms slicing through the waves with determination. The figure disappeared beneath the surface just as she reached him. Sophia plunged under, the salt water stinging her eyes as she searched blindly. Her fingers brushed against fabric, and she grasped the man's arm, pulling him toward her with all her strength. He was heavy, his body limp, and panic surged within her. She kicked furiously, dragging him back to the surface. Gasping for air, she wrapped her arm around his chest and began the arduous swim back to shore. By the time she reached the beach, her muscles burned with exhaustion, and her lungs felt as though they might burst. She collapsed onto the wet sand, dragging the unconscious man beside her. His face was pale, lips tinged with blue, and he showed no signs of breathing. Sophia's heart pounded as she knelt beside him, her hands trembling. "Come on, breathe," she muttered, tilting his head back to open his airway. She pinched his nose shut and sealed her lips over his, exhaling a breath into his lungs. Then she pressed her hands to his chest, performing compressions with a steady rhythm. "Don't you dare give up on me," she whispered, her voice trembling with urgency. Minutes felt like hours as she alternated between breaths and compressions. The storm raged on, but Sophia paid it no mind, her entire world narrowed to this life or death struggle. Just as despair threatened to creep in, the man jerked violently, coughing up a mouthful of seawater. He gasped, his chest heaving as he struggled to breathe. Sophia let out a shaky laugh of relief, sitting back on her heels. "You're alive," she said, her voice filled with awe. The man's eyes fluttered open, glassy and unfocused. He tried to speak, but his voice was barely above a whisper. "You saved me," his words were punctuated by ragged breaths. "Why risk your life?" Sophia's expression hardened, though her tone remained gentle. "Life is life," she replied simply. "Everyone deserves a second chance." The man stared at her, his gaze heavy with gratitude and confusion. Before he could say more, a violent shiver racked his body. Sophia sprang into action, realizing how dangerously cold he was. "Come on," she said, slipping an arm under his shoulders to help him sit up. "We need to get you warm." With considerable effort, Sophia managed to get him to his feet. He leaned heavily on her, his legs weak and unsteady. The journey to her small seaside cottage was slow, the storm's relentless wind and rain making every step a challenge. By the time they reached the front door, both were drenched and shivering. Sophia pushed open the door with her shoulder, guiding the man inside. The interior was modest but cozy, with a small wood-burning stove in one corner and simple furnishings. She helped him onto the worn sofa, then rushed to light the stove. Warmth began to fill the room as the fire crackled to life. "Stay here," she instructed, grabbing a dry blanket from a nearby shelf. She wrapped it around his shoulders before disappearing into another room. When she returned, she held a steaming mug of tea. "Drink this," she said, handing it to him. The man's hands shook as he took the mug, but he managed a small sip. Color was slowly returning to his face, though he still looked pale and fragile. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice stronger now. Sophia waved off his gratitude. "Don't thank me yet," she said, her tone light but firm. You've got a ways to go before you're fully recovered." He looked at her with an intensity that made her pause. "You didn't have to save me," he said quietly. "But you did." "Why?" Sophia tilted her head, studying him. "Because it was the right thing to do," she said simply. "I don't know who you are or what brought you here, but none of that matters. You were in trouble, and I helped. That's all." The man fell silent, his gaze dropping to the tea in his hands. Sophia watched him for a moment before rising to her feet. "Get some rest," she said. "We'll talk more when you're stronger." As she turned away, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this man than met the eye. But for now, she focused on keeping him alive, unaware that saving him would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The morning sun filtered weakly through the thin curtains of the cottage, casting soft streaks of light across the room. Alex stirred on the worn sofa, his body heavy with exhaustion and his head pounding as if it had been caught in a vice. The faint scent of salt water lingered in the air, mingling with the warmth of wood smoke and the subtle aroma of something earthy, herbs perhaps. As his eyes fluttered open, confusion washed over him. The room was small, modestly furnished with a mismatched table and chairs, a shelf lined with jars and fishing gear, and a patchwork quilt draped across his legs. This was not the sterile luxury of his penthouse, nor the carefully curated ambience of a resort. It was something entirely unfamiliar. He tried to sit up, but a sharp ache in his chest forced him back down. His groan drew a soft creak of the floorboards, and he turned his head to see a young woman standing in the doorway. She held a steaming bowl in her hands, her hair tied back in a loose braid that framed her sun-kissed face. "You're awake," Sophia said, her tone neither warm nor cold but matter-of-fact. She walked over and set the bowl on the small table beside him. "Eat. It'll help." Alex blinked at her, his mind still foggy. Where am I?" "My cottage," she replied simply. "You were drowning. I pulled you out." Her words hit him like a wave. Memories of the ocean, the relentless pull of the current, and the darkness that had swallowed him whole came rushing back. He glanced down at his hands, as if expecting to see evidence of the struggle. "Why would you do that?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "You don't even know me." Sophia crossed her arms, leaning against the edge of the table. "Doesn't matter. You needed help. Now, eat before it gets cold." He hesitated, then reached for the bowl. The soup was simple, potatoes, fish, and herbs, but the warmth spread through him, chasing away the lingering chill from his near-death experience. He caught her watching him, her gaze steady but unreadable. "You saved me," he said finally, as if testing the words, "but I don't belong here." Sophia raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "Then leave when you're strong enough," she said flatly. "But for now, you need rest." Her tone was firm, leaving no room for argument. Alex opened his mouth to protest, but a wave of exhaustion silenced him. Instead, he set the bowl down and let his head fall back against the cushions. As he lay there, he took in more of his surroundings, the patched walls, the faint hum of the wind outside, and the faint sound of seagulls crying in the distance. Everything about this place was so different from the world he had known. There were no sleek lines of glass and steel, no polished marble or shimmering city lights. Instead, there was a quiet simplicity, raw and unrefined. Sophia turned away, busying herself with tidying the small space. Alex watched her out of the corner of his eye. She moved with a quiet efficiency, her hands calloused from years of hard work, her clothes practical and well-worn. There was a strength about her, something resilient and unyielding, like the rocks that withstood the ocean's relentless battering. "Who are you?" he asked suddenly. Sophia paused, glancing over her shoulder. "Sophia," she said, "I fish for a living. That's all you need to know." Her curt reply only deepened his curiosity. "No family? No friends?" Sophia sighed, turning to face him fully. "I have siblings. 2 of them. They're out at the market today selling the catch. My parents," she hesitated, her gaze softening for a brief moment. "They passed away a few years ago. It's just us now." Alex felt a pang of something he couldn't quite identify. Sympathy, guilt, he wasn't sure. He looked down at his hands, the calluses from years of handshakes and paperwork, so different from the scars and wear on hers. "What about you?" she asked, surprising him. "Who are you?" He hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Alex," he said finally. "Just Alex." Sophia gave him a long look, as if weighing the truth of his words. Then she shrugged. "Well, Alex, you'd better get some rest if you're planning on leaving soon. The storm's passed, but the sea's still rough. No one's crossing today." She turned back to her work, leaving him to his thoughts. Alex stared at the ceiling, his mind a tangled mess of conflicting emotions. He had come to the beach to escape, to find some semblance of peace after the whirlwind of his life in the city. The pressure of running a multi-million-dollar company, the hollow victory of success, and the sting of his broken engagement had left him feeling empty and disillusioned. Now he found himself in a place so far removed from his usual reality that it felt like another world entirely. He should have felt out of place, resentful, even, but instead, there was a strange sense of calm in the air. It wasn't the carefully manufactured kind he had paid for in spas and retreats. It was real, tangible, and entirely unexpected. As his eyes grew heavy, he caught one last glimpse of Sophia, her figure silhouetted against the morning light streaming through the window. She was humming softly, her hands steady as she repaired another net. There was something about her strength, her quiet resilience, that made him wonder. For the first time in years, Alex felt a spark of curiosity, a question gnawing at the edges of his mind. Who was this woman who had risked her life for a stranger? And why did he feel, deep down, that she might be exactly what he had been searching for? With that thought, he drifted into a restless sleep, the sound of the waves lulling him into uneasy dreams. The days passed slowly, marked by the rhythmic ebb and flow of the tides. Sophia went about her daily routines with quiet efficiency, and Alex, still recovering, found himself drawn into her world. On the third morning he ventured outside, leaning on the doorframe for support. The salty breeze stung his face, and he watched as Sophia worked by the shore, hauling in a fishing net with practiced ease. The sun glinted off the water, painting the scene with an almost ethereal glow. "Need help?" he called out, his voice hoarse but steady. Sophia looked up, shading her eyes with one hand. "Not unless you've got sea legs," she replied, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Undeterred, Alex made his way down to her. Though unsteady at first, he quickly found his footing. Over the next few hours, Sophia taught him how to mend the torn net, her hands guiding his as he fumbled with the coarse threads. "You're not half bad," she admitted grudgingly as he completed his first repair. "But don't quit your day job." Alex chuckled, though the comment stung more than he cared to admit. "If only you knew what that was." "Try me," she said, glancing at him curiously. For the first time, Alex shared snippets of his life. He spoke of towering skyscrapers, high-stakes meetings, and a world of luxury that seemed worlds away from Sophia's simple existence. As he described exotic destinations and lavish parties, Sophia listened intently, though her expression remained unreadable. "Sounds exhausting," she said finally, her tone dry but not unkind. "No wonder you needed saving." Alex laughed, though there was a bitter edge to it. "You're not wrong." Their conversations became a daily ritual, each learning more about the other. Sophia shared stories of her childhood, growing up by the sea, losing her parents, and raising her two younger siblings on her own. Her life was one of constant struggle, but there was a quiet pride in her voice as she spoke of the small victories that kept her going. "Your world feels like a fairy tale," she admitted one evening as they sat by the fire. "But I think I'd prefer mine. At least here, I know what's real." Alex couldn't argue. Her words cut through the illusion he had built around his life, forcing him to confront truths he had long ignored. Despite their differences, an unspoken bond began to form. Alex found himself drawn to Sophia's strength and resilience, qualities he had never truly appreciated in others. Meanwhile, Sophia caught glimpses of a softer, more vulnerable side of Alex that he rarely revealed. But not everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, as they worked together to repair a broken oar, Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bill. "Here," he said awkwardly, extending it toward her, "for all you've done." Sophia froze, her expression darkening. She stood abruptly, the oar clattering to the ground. "Do you think saving a life has a price tag?" she demanded, her voice cold. Alex flushed, hastily retracting the money. "No, I didn't mean it like that," he stammered. "I just don't know how to thank you." Sophia's gaze softened slightly, though her stance remained firm. "Then don't," she said quietly. "Sometimes gratitude is enough." From that moment on, Alex stopped trying to repay her in material ways. Instead, he focused on helping where he could, mending nets, hauling supplies, and even cooking a meal or two, much to Sophia's amusement. "You're learning," she teased one evening as he proudly presented a half-burnt loaf of bread. "Hey, progress is progress," he retorted, grinning. As the days turned into weeks, Alex and Sophia's relationship deepened. Though their worlds remained starkly different, they found common ground in their shared moments, each teaching the other what it meant to truly live. Slowly but surely, Sophia began to trust him, and Alex began to trust himself. The sun filtered softly through the old lace curtains, casting a warm glow over the small kitchen where Sophia was slicing fresh bread for breakfast. Alex sat at the wooden table, absent-mindedly tracing a knot in the grain of the wood with his finger. He had been staying with Sophia for nearly a week, his strength returning with each passing day, but there was a heaviness in the air that morning, a tension neither of them could fully explain. As Sophia turned to place the bread on the table, her gaze landed on a small leather wallet carelessly left beside Alex's empty cup. It was open, and an ornate metallic card glinted in the morning light. Her curiosity was fleeting, quickly overtaken by shock as her eyes registered the name embossed on the card, Alexander Grayson, the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country. Her breath caught in her throat. The name wasn't unfamiliar. It had appeared in newspapers and television headlines for years. She felt the room tilt slightly, as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted. The man she had taken in, the one who seemed to belong more to her world of modesty and hard work, was a billionaire. "Alex," she said, her voice low but sharp. He looked up, startled by her tone. Sophia held up the wallet, her expression a mixture of disbelief and hurt. "Care to explain this?" Alex froze, his usually calm demeanor cracking as he realized what she had seen. He stood slowly, his gaze falling to the floor. "Sophia, You lied to me," she cut him off, her voice trembling with anger. "Who are you really? What are you doing here?" Alex took a step closer but stopped when she instinctively backed away. "I didn't lie to you," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing," she snapped, her fists clenched at her sides. "You've been living in my home, eating my food, letting me believe you were just some guy who got caught in a storm. But you're," she gestured wildly, unable to find the words. "Why would someone like you even end up here?" He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "Because I needed to get away," he admitted. "My life, it's not what it seems, Sophia. On paper, I'm successful, wealthy, powerful. But in reality, I'm lost. My fiancée left me because I couldn't give her the life she wanted. My company is falling apart because I've been too distracted to care. So I came here to clear my head, to escape from everything. And then the storm came. And you saved me." Sophia crossed her arms, her expression still guarded. "You could have told me that from the start," she said. "Why didn't you?" "Because I didn't want it to matter," Alex replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Here in your world, I'm just Alex. Not a CEO, not a public figure. Just a man trying to figure out who he is." He looked at her, his eyes pleading. "You've shown me a kind of life I've never known, one that's real and honest and grounded. I didn't want to ruin that by bringing my world into it." Sophia's gaze softened slightly, but the hurt in her chest didn't dissipate. She turned away, staring out the window at the churning sea. "Do you know what it's like to lose everything?" she asked quietly. "To fight every single day just to survive, to keep your family fed and safe. That's my reality, Alex. And knowing you come from a place where money is the answer to every problem, it makes me wonder if we'll ever truly understand each other." Alex stepped closer, his voice earnest. "Sophia, I don't see you as some charity case, if that's what you're thinking. I see you as the strongest, most selfless person I've ever met. You've done more for me in a week than anyone in my life ever has, and I don't know how to repay you for that." "Maybe you can't," she said, turning to face him. Her eyes searched his, looking for any sign of deceit. "How do I know you're not just saying all this to make yourself feel better?" "I'm not," he said quickly, his tone almost desperate. "I swear, Sophia, I didn't expect to feel this way, but I care about you. And it's not about the money, or the differences in our lives. It's about you, your strength, your kindness, your ability to see the best in people even when they don't deserve it." Sophia hesitated, her defenses wavering. She wanted to believe him, but the walls she had built around her heart were not so easily dismantled. "I don't know, Alex," she said finally. "This is a lot to process." "I understand," he said, his shoulders slumping slightly. "Take your time, but please don't shut me out completely. Let me prove to you that I'm not just some rich guy trying to run away from his problems." She nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. "We'll see," she said. "For now, you should rest. You're still not fully recovered." Alex opened his mouth as if to say more, but thought better of it. Instead, he gave her a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Sophia," he said softly, "for everything." As she watched him retreat to the small room where he had been staying, Sophia felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her: confusion, anger, curiosity, and something she wasn't ready to name just yet. She didn't know what the future held for her and Alex, but one thing was certain: her quiet, predictable life had been irreversibly changed. The sun hung low in the sky, its golden light dancing across the waves as Sophia knelt beside her family's small fishing boat. The vessel, though sturdy, showed the wear and tear of years spent braving the sea. Alex crouched nearby, gripping a wrench awkwardly as he tried to tighten a bolt on the engine. "You're holding it wrong," Sophia teased, leaning over to adjust his grip. Her hand brushed against his, sending a jolt of warmth through Alex. She didn't seem to notice, her focus on the task at hand. "There. Now try." Alex grinned sheepishly and followed her instructions. The bolt finally gave way, twisting into place. He held the wrench up triumphantly. "Success." Sophia laughed, the sound light and musical. "Don't get too excited. That's just the first of many. Boats don't fix themselves, you know." "Clearly," Alex replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Despite the physical labor, he felt strangely content. Working alongside Sophia, with the salty breeze on his face and the sound of the sea in his ears, was unlike anything he had experienced before. It was simple, yet it felt right. They spent hours side by side, repairing the boat piece by piece. Between tasks, they shared stories, laughter punctuating their work. Sophia told Alex about the first time she had taken the boat out alone, her siblings cheering her on from the shore. In turn, Alex recounted a disastrous yacht party from his past, where a business partner had accidentally fallen overboard. Sophia shook her head, amused. "Your world is so strange." "You're telling me?" Alex said with a chuckle. "Sometimes I wonder how I survived it." As they worked, Alex found himself studying Sophia. Her hands moved with practiced ease, her face glowing in the fading sunlight. She was unlike anyone he had ever known, strong, capable, and unpretentious. He felt a pang of admiration, mixed with something deeper that he couldn't quite name. That evening, they sat on the beach, the repaired boat resting behind them. The sunset painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, its reflection shimmering on the water. Sophia handed Alex a plate of grilled fish, the scent mouth-watering. "Fresh catch," she said with a wink. "I figured you deserved a reward for all your hard work." Alex took a bite, savoring the smoky flavor. "This is incredible," he said, his eyes widening. "You're not just a fisherwoman, you're a chef." Sophia laughed. "Don't get used to it. Tomorrow you're cooking." Challenge accepted. Alex replied, though he doubted he could match her skill. They ate in comfortable silence, the gentle lapping of waves providing a soothing backdrop. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophia glanced at Alex, her expression thoughtful. She couldn't deny the growing warmth she felt whenever he was near. He was different now, softer, more genuine. The Alex who had arrived on her doorstep weeks ago, broken and lost, seemed like a distant memory. But doubts crept in, unbidden. Their worlds were so far apart. Could someone like Alex ever truly belong in her simple, rugged life? And even if he could, what would that mean for her? For her siblings? Sophia shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts. She had no time for daydreams. The next morning, Alex surprised her with an idea. "Let's take the boat out," he suggested, his eyes alight with excitement. "It's fixed, right? Let's see how she handles." Sophia hesitated, but his enthusiasm was infectious. Before long, they were out on the water, the boat cutting smoothly through the waves. Alex took the wheel under Sophia's watchful eye, laughing as the wind tousled his hair. "You're a natural," she said, her tone teasing. "Don't jinx it," Alex replied, gripping the wheel tightly. "I'd rather not end up swimming again." They spent hours on the water, the boat bobbing gently as Sophia showed Alex the best fishing spots. She taught him how to cast a net properly, though his first few attempts were met with fits of laughter from both of them. As the afternoon wore on, they drifted into a quiet cove, the cliffs shielding them from the wind. Sophia leaned against the side of the boat, watching the sunlight play on the water. Alex sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. "This," Alex said softly, breaking the silence, "is the happiest I've been in a long time." Sophia turned to him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. "Really?" He nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "There's something about this place about you? It feels real." like I'm finally living for the first time." Sophia's breath caught. She looked away, her heart pounding. The weight of his words was almost too much to bear. She felt it too, the connection, the pull, but the doubts lingered, gnawing at the edges of her mind. Alex shifted closer, his hand brushing against hers. She didn't pull away, her pulse quickening as the space between them seemed to shrink. For a moment, time stood still. The world was reduced to the sound of the waves and the warmth of Alex's gaze. He leaned in slightly, his face inches from hers. Sophia's heart raced, and she found herself leaning in too, her defenses crumbling. But at the last second, she pulled back, her cheeks flushing. "We should head back," she said quickly, standing and turning away. Alex looked at her, his expression a mix of disappointment and understanding. "Sophia." "Let's go," she said firmly, cutting him off. She busied herself with the net, refusing to meet his eyes. The journey back was quiet, the tension between them palpable. Sophia's mind raced, her emotions a whirlwind of fear and longing. She knew she couldn't ignore her feelings forever, but for now she chose to bury them, unsure of what the future might hold. The morning was calm, the ocean stretching out in a serene expanse under a pale blue sky. Sophia stood at the water's edge, hauling in the day's first catch. She glanced over her shoulder at Alex, who was repairing a wooden crate nearby. His sleeves were rolled up, and his focus was intense, though every so often he would look up and flash her a smile. It felt so natural, him being there. Too natural, Sophia thought with a pang of unease. She couldn't let herself get too attached. Before she could dwell on it, Alex's phone buzzed from the windowsill of the cottage. It was a sharp sound that felt foreign here, in her quiet world. Alex wiped his hands on a rag and reached for it, his expression darkening as he read the screen. "Is something wrong?" Sophia asked, her voice cautious. He sighed, his brow furrowing. "It's my company. There's a crisis I can't ignore." Sophia felt her stomach drop, though she tried to keep her expression neutral. "What kind of crisis?" "A major deal is falling apart, and if I don't handle it personally, the fallout could be catastrophic," Alex said, already pulling on his jacket. He looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. "I have to go." The words hit her like a wave, but she forced herself to nod. "Of course. Your work is important." "I'll come back," Alex said, stepping closer. "I promise, Sophia. This isn't goodbye." She gave him a tight smile, refusing to let him see how much it hurt. "Take care of yourself, Alex." After Alex left, the cottage felt emptier than ever. Sophia threw herself into her work, spending long hours at sea and helping her siblings. She told herself it was better this way, better to let Alex return to his world and forget the impossible connection they had shared. "He doesn't belong here," she murmured to herself one night as she sat by the fire, staring into the flickering flames. "And I don't belong there." Yet no matter how hard she tried to bury her feelings, memories of Alex crept in. The way he laughed, the way he listened to her stories, as if they were the most fascinating things in the world. Her siblings noticed her distraction. "You miss him, don't you?" her younger brother teased one evening, nudging her arm. "Don't be silly," Sophia said, though her heart betrayed her with its ache. "He's just someone passing through. That's all." But deep down, she wondered if he had forgotten her already. In the heart of the city, Alex stepped into the sleek glass building that housed his company. The air was charged with tension, his team scrambling to salvage the deal that was slipping through their fingers. "Alex, thank God you're here," his assistant said, rushing to meet him. "The investors are furious, and the board is threatening to pull out." Alex threw himself into the chaos, working late nights and navigating delicate negotiations. Yet even as he solved one problem after another, a nagging emptiness gnawed at him. The sharp suits, the opulent offices, the endless buzz of his phone, it all felt hollow. One evening, as Alex sat in his office reviewing documents, a familiar voice broke his concentration. "Still burning the midnight oil, I see." He looked up to find Lisa, his ex-fiancée, standing in the doorway. She was as poised and polished as ever, her designer dress and confident smile a stark reminder of the life he used to lead. "Lisa," Alex said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I heard about the deal," she said, stepping inside. "I thought you might need some support." Alex leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I appreciate the concern, but I've got it under control." Lisa perched on the edge of his desk, her tone turning softer. "You know, we made a great team once. We could again." Her implication was clear, But Alex felt nothing but a hollow pang. "Lisa, I'm not the same person I was back then," he said carefully. She frowned, clearly not expecting that response. "What's changed, Alex?" "You've always been driven, always known what you wanted." Alex hesitated, the image of Sophia's smile flashing in his mind. "Maybe I've realized that what I thought I wanted isn't enough anymore." Lisa tilted her head, a hint of irritation creeping into her voice. "Is this about that Fisher girl? I heard about her from your assistant," she scoffed. "Alex, you don't belong in a place like that. You belong here, with people who understand you." The words struck a nerve, but not in the way Lisa intended. Alex stood abruptly, his jaw tightening. "You're wrong," he said firmly. "Sophia understands me better than anyone ever has." Lisa stared at him, stunned. "You're throwing away everything we built for what? A life of fishing and poverty?" Alex shook his head. "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing the life that makes me happy, and that life doesn't include you." That night, Alex returned to his empty penthouse and stood by the window, staring at the city lights. He thought of Sophia, her laughter, her unwavering strength, the way she had looked at him as if he were just a man, not a millionaire. His phone buzzed with another notification, but he ignored it. He was tired of this world, tired of chasing a success that felt meaningless. The next morning, Alex made a decision. He called his assistant and instructed her to finalize the deal without him. "I'm stepping back," he said firmly. "What does that mean?" she asked, startled. "It means I'm done letting this company define me," Alex replied. Later that day, he packed a small bag and boarded a train, his heart racing with anticipation. He had no idea how Sophia would react to his return, but he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't stay away. As the train sped toward the coast, Alex stared out the window, the city fading into the distance. He felt lighter than he had in years, as though he were finally heading in the right direction. For the first time in a long time, Alex felt like he was coming home. The morning sun bathed the beach in a soft golden light. Sophia knelt by her boat, her hands deftly sanding a section of the hull that had weathered one storm too many. The rhythmic scrape of sandpaper against wood filled the air, mingling with the soothing crash of waves in the distance. She wiped her brow and stood, surveying her work. The boat was coming along, piece by piece, much like her life. But there was a weight in her chest she couldn't shake, a sense of something unfinished. Every so often, her gaze wandered to the horizon, as if expecting, hoping for something or someone to appear. The sound of footsteps crunching on the sand pulled her from her thoughts. She turned, her heart leaping at the sight of Alex walking toward her. He was the same, yet different. His casual clothes bore the salt-stained simplicity of her world, rather than the polished perfection of the city. His stride was purposeful, but his eyes were filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place. "Alex?" she said, her voice a mix of surprise and disbelief. He stopped a few feet away, his chest rising and falling as if he'd been running. "Sophia," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm back." She stared at him, unsure whether to be angry or overjoyed. "Why?" "Because I couldn't stay away," Alex said, stepping closer. "I tried to move on, tried to go back to my old life, but it wasn't the same. You weren't there." Sophia crossed her arms, her heart pounding. "So what? You realized you were lonely and decided to come running back. That's not how it works, Alex." He shook his head, his expression earnest. "It's not like that. I've had months to think, Sophia. About you, about us, about everything." He paused, his voice softening. "You showed me what it means to truly live. It's not about money or success. It's about connection, about purpose. And I found that with you." Sophia felt her defenses wavering, but fear held her back. "We're from two different worlds, Alex. You don't belong here." "Maybe I didn't before," he said. "But I do now." Her gaze searched his face, looking for any sign of insincerity. "And what happens when you get bored? When the simplicity of this life doesn't measure up to what you're used to?" Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "That's not going to happen," he said, handing it to her. Sophia unfolded it, her eyes scanning the document. It took a moment for the words to register. "You sold your company?" He nodded. "I walked away from all of it. The business, the city, everything. I didn't need it anymore. What I need is here." She looked up at him, stunned. "Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to prove to you that I'm serious," Alex said, his voice steady. "I used part of the money to invest in something that matters, to help your community. The fishing docks, the equipment, the boats, they'll all be upgraded. And the rest, I don't care about it. What I care about is you." Sophia's breath hitched, her heart swelling with a mix of emotions. She turned away, staring out at the ocean as tears pricked her eyes. "Alex, this is my world. It's hard and unpredictable, and it doesn't come with guarantees." He stepped beside her, his tone soft but resolute. "I'm not asking for guarantees, Sophia. I'm asking for a chance to build something real with you, no matter how hard it gets." For a long moment, the only sound was the waves lapping against the shore. Sophia wrestled with her doubts, her fear of opening her heart completely. But when she looked at Alex, standing there with everything laid bare, she saw not the wealthy businessman she had rescued months ago, but the man who had worked beside her, laughed with her, and made her feel alive. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex frowned, leaning closer. "What did you say?" She turned to him, a smile breaking through her tears. "I said okay. Let's try." Relief and joy lit up Alex's face. Without hesitation, he pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he never wanted to let go. Sophia laughed through her tears, the sound carrying over the waves. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, love could bridge the gap between their worlds. As they stood together on the beach, the horizon stretching endlessly before them, Sophia realized that sometimes taking a chance on love was the bravest thing of all. The village had never seen so much change in such a short time. Under Alex's guidance, the fishing docks were repaired and expanded, providing space for more boats and better equipment. New nets, engines, and storage facilities replaced the old, battered ones that had served the fishermen for decades. Jobs flourished. And with Alex's encouragement, Sophia found herself at the center of it all, ensuring that every improvement was tailored to what her community truly needed. At first, some of the villagers were wary of Alex, unsure of what to make of the former businessman who had suddenly appeared in their lives. But over time, his genuine efforts and humility won them over. He worked alongside them, hauling crates of fish, painting boats, and even learning the intricate art of knot tying from the village elders. "Never thought I'd see the day a city man got his hands dirty like this," one of the older fishermen teased as Alex struggled to carry a particularly heavy load. "Well, you're making it look too easy," Alex replied with a grin, earning a hearty laugh from the group. Sophia watched from the sidelines, her heart full. Alex had become part of her world, and though it wasn't always easy, he embraced the challenges with open arms. She admired the way he listened to the villagers, valuing their wisdom and traditions. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the water, Alex and Sophia stood on the beach, watching the waves lap at the shore. It was the same spot where she had pulled him from the sea all those months ago. "I've been thinking," Alex began, his voice soft but steady. "About what?" Sophia asked, glancing at him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple gold ring. A single, unassuming pearl was set in the center, a quiet nod to their shared connection with the sea. Sophia's breath caught as Alex knelt before her, his eyes filled with love and determination. "Sophia, you saved me in more ways than one," he said. "You taught me what it means to live, to love, and to truly belong. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as she stared at the ring, her heart overflowing. She knelt down beside him, taking his face in her hands. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "1,000 times yes." Alex slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, their laughter mingling with the sound of the waves. The engagement celebration was unlike anything the village had ever seen. Everyone gathered under strings of colorful lanterns, tables laden with freshly caught seafood and homemade delicacies. Music filled the air as children danced barefoot in the sand, their joy infectious. Sophia's siblings were at the center of the excitement, proudly showing off the pearl ring to anyone who would listen. She said yes. Her younger brother shouted gleefully, earning cheers from the crowd. Alex moved through the gathering with ease, laughing and chatting with the villagers, as if he had been one of them all his life. Every so often, his gaze would find Sophia's, and she would smile, her heart swelling with gratitude. As the night wore on, Alex and Sophia found a quiet moment to themselves, sitting on the sand and watching the celebration from a distance. The moon cast a silver glow over the water, and the stars seemed brighter than ever. "You know," Sophia said, leaning her head against Alex's shoulder, "I never thought life could be like this." "Neither did I," Alex admitted, wrapping an arm around her. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. They sat in comfortable silence, the sounds of laughter and music blending with the gentle rhythm of the waves. As the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, Sophia turned to Alex, her eyes shining. "You didn't just save my life that day, Alex," she said softly. "You gave me a new one." Alex smiled, his heart full. "And you gave me mine." Together they watched the sun rise, ready to face whatever the future held, hand in hand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, Alex and Sophia stood hand in hand on the beach, their hearts beating in unison. Their journey had been anything but easy, but it was a testament to the power of love and the courage to embrace a new path, no matter how uncertain it seemed. Together, they had bridged the gap between two vastly different worlds, proving that sometimes the simplest moments hold the greatest treasures. Their story wasn't just about a wealthy man finding meaning in a humble life, or a fisher girl discovering love in an unexpected place. It was about resilience, selflessness, and the belief that true happiness comes from connection and purpose. It's a story that reminds us all to take a leap of faith when love calls. If this heartwarming tale touched your soul, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. And for more stories that stir your heart, remind you of the beauty of humanity, and uplift your spirit, make sure to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video, and join us as we continue to explore the power of love, resilience, and compassion. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep believing in the magic of human connection.